Hi, welcome to the SwineTime podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Spencer Wayne. I'm one of the veterinarians here at Pipestone. I'm also one of the owners in Pipestone Holdings. I have the great pleasure of getting to interview interesting people about interesting topics and on the SwineTime podcast here. And my topic today is TN visa employees, finding employees in general, farm labor, providing it, figuring out how to get it done. And I've got two guests, Giovanna and Dan Hanson. And Giovanna, I don't even know your last name.
Penuelas.
Okay, I'm not even going to say it.
You can say Penuelas.
Penuelas. Okay. Giovanna Penuelas and Dan Hanson. They work here in Pipestone with a service offering called FarmTeam. And I can let them explain what they do a little more, but essentially it's I need help and I can't find help. And can somebody give me help to get these pigs chored and cared for every day? So Dan, how about if I start with you and introduce yourself a little and then get to Giovanna, and then we can talk a little bit about the whole process of getting folks onto your farm for help.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks so much for the invite here, Spencer. Always a pleasure to be able to have this opportunity to talk with you. Like you said, my name is Dan Hanson. I've worked with Pipestone here for a number of years, coming up on 17. My wife and I live just outside of Edgerton, raise our two boys that are in second grade. So big thing for us right now is we're looking for the green light to go from second grade to third grade, and hopefully that comes soon.
Green, what, like your kids might not pass, or what's going on?
We're always looking for the next step, Spencer. So there's that end of the year report card that gives us that green light. So that's always exciting. But really today, opportunity to be able to work with FarmTeam like you described. And I have been enjoying being able to understand more about what FarmTeam is, what FarmTeam needs to be, and be able to work with independent producers in the area and kind of all throughout the Midwest that are having the challenges that you just described, that are working to be able to continue doing what they're doing in their swine production. Maybe they're considering growth, and all of those are requiring that they have very sustainable labor. They have good labor that focuses on animal husbandry, and that's what FarmTeam is working to do, is be able to fill that gap.
All right. Giovanna?
I'm Giovanna Penuelas. I'm from Mexico. I'm actually a TN worker. I have two daughters. I'm living at Luverne, and I began to work here with Pipestone last summer.
Okay. You have an interesting background because you said, I'm a TN worker. Like, yeah, so much more also. You have a very interesting background and a lot of different things. Can you hit some of the high points?
Yes, I'm a veterinarian. I have a master's degree in genetics. I study a PhD degree in Spain, and I work a researcher in a university in Mexico for 10 years. And after that, I came in 2016 and began to work with pigs. Okay.
So it's worth mentioning those things because if I spend a little time with you, I can see those things coming out. You have a deep knowledge of a lot of things. So, and I think that probably comes in very handy. I'm not going to ask you about any of that though today, because the questions I would have for you is more cultural. Like, what is the person experiencing on the farm? And so you laid it out a little bit, Dan, of, we have a service here where we will get a TN person, get them trained, and then get them on the farm with you. And then they report to you, but they're essentially a person we've kind of set up to be successful on your farm with everything we can. But that person's typically from Mexico, because it's part of the NAFTA program, a carryover from that. They're Mexican citizens, not from other countries. They all got to be from Mexico, and they could come to the U.S. or Canada, I think. But in here, it's Minnesota, so it's the U.S.
Yeah, that's correct. And so then some of the other requirements are around education, and Giovanna can probably give us better details on what qualifies or what's necessary in order to qualify for a TN visa working with pigs.
Because TN visa people come up here with, it's not just one type of qualification. There's a couple of options for what they would be educated by.
They need a degree, a background in agriculture or something related with animals or plants. So they have to be graduating in a university.
So either a veterinarian or animal science student?
Or biologist. Sometimes, yes.
Okay. All right. So they come here with some training and some skills. Very common. Okay. When they come up, can they be an agronomist that worked with plants and come in and work with pig farmers? Or is it, it's specifically animal science or veterinary medicine or biology? Does it have to be
they can have experience in plants, and anyway, they have to be in a training process.
Okay. So they come up here, then we get them for a while and do some training, or for how many weeks typical?
Yeah. Here in FarmTeam is between 4 and 8 weeks.
4 and 8 weeks. Get trained. Do they speak English?
Normally, no. They have a really low level in English. But the point with the training is to have to acquire some skills in pig production, and at the same time because you have to understand that it's not that we are only hiring someone; they are moving. Mm-hmm. They are moving their whole life here in the United States. So in this moment of the training is for us a good opportunity to make to them to have a great experience. They have to begin to be used not only to the language, because when someone even at the farms think about a Mexican worker, the first thing that they think is about the language. Mm-hmm. For us, the language is easy, and more nowadays that we have computers or phones, we can use translators. So even if you don't speak English, language is not a huge barrier.
So if language is easy, and that's what everybody's thinking, like, oh, it's a language. But what is the hard thing? Is it?
Oh, it's a lot of things, even like the weather, the units. Mm-hmm. We don't use Fahrenheit.
What's the other alternative?
Celsius.
I've never heard of it. Okay, so fair enough.
The whole world uses Celsius.
I'm waiting for the rest of the world to catch on. Inches, miles, Fahrenheit.
So when someone said, "Oh, it's like 2 miles away," from Mexican is what is a mile, and in our mind we begin to do conversions. It's not necessary to do conversions, but we have to do conversions, or dollars, or today is going to be cold. It's 24 Fahrenheit degrees, or it's not that cold. And for us, it's like, what is 24?
Okay, so the units that basic things you're used to talking about, you have to do a lot of conversion in. What about the actual weather? Not just the units, but what is the experience of a Mexican person coming from southern Mexico to North Dakota and experiencing the winter we just had? Is it traumatic, or are they pretty easy?
We have a little cold weather in the north, but I think the average weather in Mexico is around 70 Fahrenheit degrees.
Okay.
So the people that are coming from the south right now, probably they are between 80 to 90 degrees. Okay.
But a month and a half ago, they would have left 70 degrees Fahrenheit and they would have come to zero.
No, for Mexico, 30 degrees is pretty cold.
30 Fahrenheit, right below freezing. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
For us is zero, because 30 degrees is close to our 0 Celsius.
Right. How do they handle it when they go to something that's far below freezing? Is it, we can do it, or is it shocking enough that they might want to go home? And literally, they don't stay because of the weather.
When you don't have this temperature, you are not scared about it. So when you begin to see, maybe it's -2 Celsius or -5 or -10. If we talk about Fahrenheit, we are talking about between 14, 20, whatever. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning, we think, it's not that bad. I can walk a block, or I can go to the store. Mm-hmm. Because in Mexico, we walk a lot, or we go outside a lot. So when the new employees come, they want to go out to the store. And even if it looks cold, it's only 2 blocks.
Yeah.
How bad can it be?
Well, it can be really bad.
No. Yeah. In their mind is how bad.
Yeah.
And I think you bring up weather, and I think that's one of those areas that's really interesting, that Giovanna and the farmer are really needed in order to support the team members on how to live. We see it, that, right? 60 degree difference, 70 degree difference, sometimes depending on time of year. But Giovanna is even helping support these team members, getting them to locations to be able to buy a coat and to be able to know how to buy a coat, understand the difference between a jacket and what we're talking about, a Minnesota January coat.
And even a farm coat.
Yeah.
Because they need different kind of clothes.
I've noticed a few times when I've seen folks from Mexico, they go to drive around and they're like in a light jacket with no emergency supplies in a storm. And you think, man, if you get stranded, you could die, and like, they don't know it's a life or death situation sometimes.
Yeah, you're not scared because you don't know this.
Okay, cultural differences.
Yes, of course.
What are the biggest things that are shocking for if you were going to hire a farm team person or just anybody from Mexico that came up? What would be the biggest thing that you don't realize they're having to deal with? Is it food? Is it the way people act, or what is it?
I think it's a lot of things. Over there, we have we can talk about that driver license. That is one of our main issues that we have. We talk with them and we explain to them that it's important to have the driver license. Not only because they need to drive, it's because it's an ID and all these things. So in Mexico, we have a lot of options to go to somewhere. There are buses, there are taxis, there's a way to go to different places. So when there's a new worker, they think that, it's not that necessary to have the driver's license or to have a car because probably I will find a different option.
Yeah. But here,
no,
it's only car.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a difference. What about the food? I suppose there's a lot of places to buy Mexican ingredients now. So
I think nowadays is not a big deal because you can buy ingredients even by internet. Mm-hmm. Walmart, a lot of stores offer a lot of Mexican ingredients, so it's not a big deal to cook. Mm-hmm. But in Mexico, we have like a lot of places to go out and find, like just in the corner, something to eat.
Okay. You said out and fun. It makes me think of something too, because I go to the farm, especially our sow units that we manage. And there's a lot of folks that are TN visa people and they're in the middle of nowhere and they're from Mexico. And I say, hey, what do you do for fun? And they just look at you like, nothing. There's nothing here. And even by Brookings, where I think there's a lot of things to do, there are not a lot of social options, is my impression. Is that true? Where they here and they're totally bored, or can the person from Mexico have fun in South Dakota, I guess would be my question.
Well, I think that they began to change the way to think, how to get fun, To get fun probably is just go and eat something in the corner and meet your neighbors or something. And when they begin to live here, they realize that they cannot socialize the same way. Okay.
What, smaller groups than huge parties or what?
No. I'm not talking about parties. I'm talking about just walking outside your house and meet your neighbors and go to the store and buy something or eat something. You don't have to be with friends. You can talk with the neighbors. We like to have contact, we like to smile and we like to talk. And
you think Mexicans are more social than Americans?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
Yes. We love to talk with random people. And so here, when you smile to someone and they just look at you like...
they will get away. Why are you smiling at me?
Yeah, okay. But the normal is not only you have to talk or have good time with friends, you can talk with random people.
Okay. All right. What do Mexicans miss most about home? If you're employing somebody from Mexico and they've been here for a year, what are they missing the most?
Well, I think that that is part of our work because it depends. When we have new employees, you think that you know everything because maybe they are young or they have how they look or what you read in the resume. But the truth is that when you begin to talk with them and they say that they just left a baby of 6 months.
Mm-hmm. In Mexico,
yeah. And the wife or 2 kids, and you begin to listen to all these stories. Mm-hmm. Well, you begin to think different. It's not what they are missing. It's not just about family, or it's not just about food, or it's not just about the town. It's about the reality. and what are their goals and what are they looking.
Yeah. It seems fairly common when I've met folks on the TM program that they've brought their family up here as well. I see a lot of that on the sow farms. Is that accurate? Is it like half the people, a small fraction of the people end up coming with their wife and their husband and their children? Is that something that it must happen at some frequency?
It's part of the visa. You can bring your family, your direct family, with a different kind of visa. For the worker is TN, for the family is TD. But when you come first, maybe as a worker, maybe you decide, I will go and first I will check how is the work or establish or make money or be in a training period or know where I'm going to be placed. And once I figure out, I begin to do numbers and begin to think, well, when is a good moment to bring my family? And sometimes it's about a couple of months, and sometimes it's about a couple of years.
Until they come up, you mean?
Yes.
Okay. Because I've run into that too, where I ask somebody and they say, oh, next month or next year, it's not happening yet, but they're planning for it.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on their realities.
Okay. How many of people that come up with the program end up staying here like a really long term? I know it's a question because what is long term, but is it common that a person would come up here?
Well, in our area, in FarmTeam, they are thinking in long term normally. Long term, I mean, the minimum is about 3 years, but they are thinking in much more than 3 years.
Okay.
So today, Spencer, FarmTeam is pretty young as it goes. And so FarmTeam has been in existence for right about 3 years. And so then at that point, we have several team members that started originally with FarmTeam and are still with FarmTeam, but we're not an old enough business unit to be able to have.
Yeah. What does long-term mean? Because
anybody longer than that.
Okay. So when a person comes from Mexico, what do they like about the U.S.? What's the impressive thing that they think is really cool? Or maybe it's nothing and you're just trying to be kind by trying to come up with something now. You must like some things.
No, I think a lot of things. But you have to understand when we arrive at the beginning, for most of them is shocking. You begin to compare, if it's winter, the days here are really too short. So you even miss the sun, whether the sun or the weather or the food or the friends. So you begin to put really high your expectations about Mexico. You begin to think that everything is perfect over there, because you miss that so much that you put it too high. But what we love is a lot of things. I think that the structure, rules. We like the rules, and we like to have to be clear what will happen next day or next week or next month.
Okay. There's a sense of stability or something at the pace of life?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I was talking to a farm manager in a sow farm in North Dakota, and he was talking about his employees that would come up and they end up in Grand Forks and then west of Grand Forks. And the questions about where are the skyscrapers? You're in the middle of nowhere, North Dakota, but on TV, you see pictures of New York City or something. And it's well, that's New York City. It's not 30 miles west of Grand Forks where not much is. So is that a cultural thing where they expect different and they get here and it's not like New York?
No, it's about, you watch a lot of TV shows and movies and you think that everybody's holding a coffee and talking in a cell phone or whatever. But the truth is, at least in our area, a lot of our farm team members have family farms and comes from really small towns. So in our area that we work directly with family farms, when we place them, they are really happy because they feel like home.
Okay.
Somehow they can relate it like their home.
Okay. I can see how you're very valuable to the process because you understand all the cultural stuff. And in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, we've asked what they like, what they miss. What's the problem? If you had a couple problems that are the common problems, somebody comes here and then the stuff that ruins the experience for the farmer or for the TN employee, what would be the common problems that would occur?
Well, sometimes when you think to come here is to make money. So if you think that you are going to receive a salary, you begin to make like huge dreams that, oh, with this money, and if I work 1 year, I can come back to Mexico and I can buy this. So when you begin to live here, you forget about one thing, that you have to continue paying bills.
Mm-hmm.
So you receive money, but you have to pay bills here.
In the U.S.?
In the USA. Yeah. So
okay. So the expectations of the cost of living is different here.
Yes. Okay. It's not about that it's too expensive. It's about that you think that maybe faster you can make more money. Mm. And even you can send money to Mexico. Mm-hmm. So when you begin to work and you realize month and paycheck after paycheck that you are paying bills and you don't have that amount of money that you were thinking about, is one of the reasons that people said, oh.
Okay. So get here and the ability to actually earn savings.
Yes.
Not just money, but savings, true savings to either send to Mexico or to save for going back later or doing something here. But the cost of living changes that. Maybe you also get some lifestyle choices, like I want to get a nice vehicle and other things that would change it. Okay, what else?
Again, as you mentioned about how is the life here, some people think like, I don't know, that their life in the farm will be different. They are not thinking actually how is the life in a farm.
Okay.
So the schedule or the activities, or even some people complain about the smell, you know.
Oh, really?
That maybe they truly never thought about how is the life in a farm.
Yeah, they have some college training, but they may not have actually worked in a pig farm before.
Yes. That's so sometimes they have like an idea that I'm going to come and work in a pig farm and I'm going to do this. But when they begin to work, they realize that it's not what they were thinking. Mm-hmm. And because they didn't have that experience.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, they don't like it.
What percent is successful? Like when say success is a person that comes here, that gets trained, backgrounded, the process is done, and then they go to a farm, and then they're at that farm for, let's say, 1 year, and then they feel good, the farmer feels good, everybody feels good. If that's success, what percent is success in your program? If just give a ballpark number.
No, I think that's a pretty complex question because there's so many layers of what I would call vetting the team members that are being at the time of recruiting. So Pipestone Recruiting has an office in Mexico. They do a fantastic job of vetting those team members at that point. When they're in the time of training, then Giovanna and myself are also working to not only train them on pig IQ and help them get all of the documents that we talked about, but we're also using a process of vetting those employees and making sure that we think that the team member is going to be successful in FarmTeam, and then learn about them to be able to identify a placement of where they're going to be able to be placed. And so all along those steps, there is fallout of team members that aren't making the cut to be able to advance to the next step.
Okay. So it's not as simple as we get the same person. You might find that person isn't going to be successful really early and they're not part of the process versus they get to the farm.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Before we wrap up, it's probably worth differentiating like what you're describing, and there's other services that do something similar. And then if you're a farmer, you might have somebody who walks up to your door and knocks on it and says, hey, I'm looking for work. And that person's also maybe a person from Mexico, but these are potentially very different kinds of people and very different programs. One is not a program. It's just a guy that might not have any legal status here at all, shows up, wants to get paid in cash. The other one might be a TN person, but gets dropped off at your doorstep, a little bit like, hey, you go pick them up at the airport, and that person maybe isn't backgrounded at all. Your person is trained, they're fully processed, and there's a bunch of support behind it essentially to make sure that there's success. Once they get to your farm, everything is geared towards the successful experience with that person. And if not, then there's some remedy to that. You put another person there.
Yeah.
Is that right? Am I describing it right?
No, that's exactly right. And I think the customer that you described, Spencer, is that independent producer that is looking for 1 or 2 team members. And that, as Giovanna's been describing, of the cultural differences that happens in those situations just continues to amplify in the difference between Mexico and the U.S. When we think about small town USA with 1 or 2 team members on the operation. And so that just continues to require more support for both the farmer and for the team member to make sure that they're able to find community, to make sure that they're being enfolded into the farm that they're being asked to be a part of. And so that's really, I'm really glad that Giovanna has been able to join the conversation with you, Spencer, to be able to help show what she's doing and the capabilities that she has to be able to enfold and drive that success for that team member by being able to support them.
Okay. You said something there that's really interesting to me, community. And, if you're out of community, nothing related to your program, just you can't live out of community well. You need to be in some kind of community. So if that's a big part of what you're doing, I'm sure that's very, very important.
Yes, as we mentioned, FarmTeam is working with family farms. So each farm is quite different, and each FarmTeam member is different. So since day one, we began to work with them about their personal goals, about the personal skills that they bring with them, mm-hmm. and the skills that they are developing here. And we began to work with the farms to try to find the best fit and the best match to succeed.
Okay. So a lot of tailoring, sounds like. All right. We've burnt up enough time, I think, on this. I'm getting the signal that we're well into the 20s for minutes. We should wrap it up, but I want to say thank you both for coming here. If anybody listening has questions about FarmTeam, definitely give Dan Hanson a call or Giovanna a call, and you can get their number just by calling the main line. Hopefully you guys in the listening audience learned some things about cultural differences, about the experience of what a person coming from Mexico on the TN visa program would experience when they're here. So if farmers are working with that kind of a situation, they may be more acquainted and better aware of the challenges. And I want to say thanks to the listening audience, and thanks to our guest here today too, and come back next time to SwineTime Podcast.
Thanks for the invite.
Okay, thank you.
SwineTime Podcast was created for the pork industry and individual pork producers around the country. Hosted by me, Dr. Spencer Wayne, with the Pipestone Veterinary Services. The podcast contains pork industry news, advancements in animal care, and how to enhance your productivity. Monthly podcasts are available on Spotify, Google Music, iTunes, Anchor, and on www.pipestone.com.